Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today, we are doing chapter 24 of The Captain's Heart. And of course, I forgot to bring that up. Anything you, Gralgiran, asked the Canaris. I was able to use the work Girani did off Hunt to unravel the Earther's encoding, the hunter replied, the discomfort audible in his tone, but they reinforced the walls surrounding the access point. While Girani had to be punished for what she'd done, the work itself had been too important not to make use of it. So, Gralgiran had made having her bring the data to Tikaneres in person part of that punishment. Every hunter who needed to be on the bridge knew she'd been taken off the hunt, if only by asking why she was no longer at the board. And having her tell Caneres exactly what she was handing him left no doubt what she'd done. Gralgiran figured that, and having the access to computers revoked for a few days, would serve as a reminder to everyone that while hunters were afforded leeway under the law, they should tread with care when they assume that same leeway applied to their alpha's order. Does that mean you can't get in? Not without being noticed. They found the gap Girani used and covered other weak points. I'll find something, once I do that, we'll be able to take control of whatever we need if it comes down to it. The secondary team went over the Earther's control code and understands it. Understands. Okay, what is... Okay, that is... Oh, really? Come on. Sorry. I need to move that button somewhere else. And understands it. When did we get that? My understanding is that getting the one video was all that Journey had managed to get. Discomfort mixed with fear waft off the mail. I don't think you want to know, Alpha. Gralgiran leaned in and lowered his voice so only Tikaneris. Oops, that doesn't go there. I mean, that is how I spelled it, right? Did I? Come on, Tick. Wait. Ticker? You know what? I am going to fix it in the other one, but yeah, I'm removing the R. Tikaneris is going to be better instead of Ticker. Neris. Tikaneris. So only Tikaneris would hear his displeasure. Don't test me, Hunter, or you'll find that Journey's punishment was light compared to yours. Tapping of claws brought up code on another screen. Gralgiran couldn't tell it apart from what the Hunter had already been working on, but he didn't doubt it was the command code he'd referred to. Who hacked them and stole that? The growl spread through the bridge. They didn't mark the file, Alpha. It appeared within the Hunter's system 3 days ago. We couldn't find a scent to hunt. And you didn't tell me? You can't. You can't be accused of ordering it if you never knew it happened, Alpha. Gralgiran needed multiple breaths before he trusted himself to speak. I am the Alpha. It is my role to protect my hunters. Your role as my hunter is to give me all the information you uncover so that I know how to go about protecting you. The hunter swallowed and the scent of fear increased. Then you're not going to like this. Tapping and code scrolled until it reached the end. Whoever sent it added this. Is this good enough for you to put the Sacharel back on duty? Why was he even surprised? 3 days meant he'd arranged this either as Gralgiran was threatening Xeniel, or before knowing it would happen. The male had even predicted a change he'd make to the cell's duty roster. He'd thrown the quartermaster in the brig for he'd throw the quartermaster in the brig for this if he wasn't already there. How hard did the team try to find the hacker? Ticaneris. You know what? Let's Ticaneris. As best as we're able to, Alpha. He hesitated. We were going to talk them into becoming a hunter. Someone better than the hacker among his hunters deserves consideration. But if they worked for Xenial, Gralgiran doubted they'd have the sense of morality he demanded of his hunters. The one good thing about this, although he could consider this good, was that if it came down to it, all he'd be forced to do was hunt down a civilian criminal on his ship. The hunt itself couldn't be affected, no matter what the commander might think. All right. Tell your beta she's to divert some of our hunters to hunting for that hacker on charges of hacking into a foreign power. It was what came of such actions without an alpha's protection. And if she even makes the offer to become a hunter to them, she'll share their punishment. They can get that after they've been trialed. Trial. Double L? Trialed? After they've been trialed by a Federation tribunal. Okay, you don't, yeah. And it would become another alpha's responsibility if they accepted. He turned to the others. All right, I want an update. How is the hunt proceeding? This isn't going to make it easier. They watched the chatter. Kegriel said, they definitely know we're listening. We're building a list of what we're confident are code words, but we haven't worked out what they're referring to yet. Scans aren't telling us anything new, Serzir said. We know what sections the antimatter might be stored in, but we'll need to go stronger if we want to narrow it to more than 3/4 of the station. If that's all antimatter related, they have enough of the stuff to blow up a planet. There's no way they could get that much without anyone noticing. Leclerc said with derision. I'm not saying they do, just pointing out that's a lot of the station purposely hidden from scans. Do they think we can scan them from our territorial borders? They might. Serzir said. Wait. This is Serzir. This is Leclerc. This should be Serzir again. So this has got to be somebody else. Let's make it Grill. Interesting. Why are you highlighting? The Federation won't tell anyone the extent of our tech until they've been accepted. Until that point, all the Earthers have to go by is what they can imagine. And if there's one, oh yeah, that's where it should have been. And if there's one thing I'm getting from listening to them is that Earthers can imagine big. Alpha, I know it isn't a hunter's place to make such decisions. Leclerc said tentatively, and Gralgiran faced her. But aren't we ignoring 1 cent? Elaborate, Hunter. She looked around, but if one of the others knew what she was scratching for, they wanted nothing to do with it. Your heart is on the ship. He's a civilian, Gralgiran replied in a level tone that came from having considered the option. He's your heart, she persisted. That mean he gets to... No, the tone hardened. He's an Earther. I doubt we got one of the other species to recognize what a heart gains, and they know of our gods. Unless you have access to information that's been denied to me, Earthers don't know about them or what they gave us and what it means. Since you know about him, you might also know he hasn't recognized me. But even then, I will not involve a civilian in the hunt while there are other alternatives. So we continue to hunt. He looked at them over. Where can I help? Gralgiran paused in the eatery's entrance. Couldn't remember ever seeing it at capacity. It looked like everyone stationed on the command deck had decided to eat at the same time. Now, there weren't enough people on a shift to fill it. It was one of the things that made eating here pleasant. There was none of the bustle of the eateries that served the more crowded decks. He let the smell of the sauces and seared meat pull him away from the question and stepped to the selection bar, grabbing a tray and passing, then taking small platters of differing meat and sauces. What are the techs doing here? A female to his left muttered, and he looked over his shoulder at a group of excited males and females gathered at the couple of table. He was able to. He was about to point out that lacking self-control didn't make them techs when he recognized Turek among them. Before he could wonder what he was doing here, Tex moved about, and Gralgiran saw who was seated next to the hunter, and, fortunately for Turek, the male seated across from them. The ambassadors present might not mean the male was behind us, but the meaningful look he gave Gralgiran left no doubt. Jeremy held a roll of meat like a cub might before their claws were long enough to properly spear their food, and he put the other end in a bowl of sauce before bringing it to his mouth, hand under it to catch the drips. Dick had a mix of chuckle and offended expression at what would be an utterly inappropriate way to handle food by one of them. You let the excess drip into the bowl first, otherwise there was too much sauce, and it overwhelmed the taste of the meat. Jeremy didn't seem to mind. The clearing of the throat was mixed with a chuckle, and Gralgiran, his ears folded back. He hurried to add bowls. Bowl, bowls of meat and sauce, then a tall glass of Kipperniger juice, and stepped away from the bar, intent on finding a seat well away from. Turek stood, and Queric smiled at Gralgiran. He looked for a table to sit at, any other table, and learned why the eatery was full today. Just Billiam bet him. The ambassador arranged this. Well, let him enjoy the bed. Gralgiran didn't have to get in it with them. He headed for the exit. He'd eat in the leisure alley further down. He only made it 4 steps when Queric called. Captain? The male had to have started moving as soon as he'd seen where Gralgiran was going. What do you think you're doing? I thought you were spending the day with Jeremy as camouflage for your hunt. And I did. I confirmed what I needed earlier than I thought, and since Jeremy showed me places he liked, I thought I'd show him the place where I like to eat. You didn't set foot on this deck in any of your visit. The ambassador waved the comment aside. It's well known that the command deck eatery has the best prepared sauces and meat, no matter which ship you're on. And Jeremy believed you? I'm an ambassador. Why would he have any reason to question my intention? Because you are a conniving Xenelia lover who... Quirk placed a hand on Granel's arm. Gral, it's okay. The touch and shortening of his name was more familiar than he'd usually allow, but Gralgiran had made his interest known when he'd addressed the male by his name instead of his title. You have no right. He's my heart. This belongs to the gods. The hand moved up, rubbed. There are other forces at play, Hunter Alpha. Unless you act, they might win. Gralgiran closed his eyes and breathed, to settle himself and to push away the touch. He didn't think Queric was the kind of male who'd use his talent to manipulate the situation, but by itself, the touch had an effect. And This is what you resort to, Quirk? Something out of a learning center? You gather everyone from the play yard to so the lovers you think you think belong together have no choice but to sit side by side? I take back my earlier insult. This isn't conniving, it's lame. Quirk smiled. Except I'm not guessing. I'm playing my part in making sure the gods' will happens. Are you even a traditionalist, Quirk? That's just a word to which certain people attach specific meanings. Ambassadors have to hunt to move beyond that if we want to do the work that comes with the position. I believe in the gods, and I believe that if just Biliam went to such an extent to make this meeting happen, it's my duty to them to stand in the way of any who would see it fail. Who'd see it fail? Who'd see it fail? Those forces you mentioned. Are they the Earther gods? I don't know. Gods isn't a subject that they have brought up in conversation, and I haven't had a reason to ask about them. But the actions are being caused by people. You don't have to worry. We aren't acting against gods, even if this might be their will. Gargaran looked at the eatery's entrance, at the eatery entrance, envisioning sitting next to Jeremy and everyone watching, cheering. Not like this. Do you have a sense of how long I have? There is time. I gave Jeremy a tool to help him withstand what is being done, but technology has no limits, while the mind does. The longer he stays there, the harder it will be for him to realize who you are. I can't just take him from the station, Gargaran said, repulsed at the idea of forcing something like that on Jeremy. You can't force him to leave, but you can make it easier for him to ask to stay here. And he needs to know me for that to happen. Quark smiled. I think you'd rather he ask you than Technician Turek. And that concludes chapter 24 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it is available on Ream Story. And if you are looking to listen to them live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.